Looks like the stream is going. Hi everyone, TigerHawk3 here. Last Python segment was creating a memory tile game in the console, and today I'm gonna do that with tkinter, because I don't know what else to do. If anyone has any ideas, leave a comment. I urge you to do that. And then like and subscribe also. But really comment with ideas, because I don't know. Doing streams every day is a lot. So I'm gonna import tkinter SDK, and then don't know what else I'll want for now. So I'll just say class, because the convenient way to work with tkinter is with a class, and I'll call it memory tile. And I'll put some empty little signatures here. There's probably going to be other stuff, I don't know. And then root equals tk.tk, and memory tile equals memory tile with root, and we send that, and then we start the main loop. So when we initialize, we're going to have what? This is pink because I have def here with nothing. So for now, it's a def root, and that's going to change. Don't worry. Okay, let's look at the other one. What do we have? I don't know how applicable this is going to be. I'll start by creating the board. About buttons. Let's do self.buttons. Actually, first, self.parent equals parent. That's because when I instantiate this class, I send it the tkinter root object, and I want to save that. .buttons equals tk.button in the root text equals this, command equals something that I don't know yet, for I in range 4, for j in range 4. Okay. Less than 100 columns. Great. The standard is 80, which is right over here. Column number 80? Yeah. So this is the standard width of a terminal. And the reason for that is purely technical and obsolete. No longer applies. It was because the terminals and the printers that were used then were 80 columns wide. That's the only reason. Now we have standard terminals, basically terminal emulators, really, that are 80 columns wide and 24 lines long, because that's how it was 40 years ago. But 40 years have passed since 40 years ago. So I ignore that and just go with whatever looks good to me. Here's our buttons. So I've created a nested list, and each of these will be a row. And so we have four rows, and each row has 4 columns. And we're going to have a command of something. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but we're going to need one, and each button is going to need something. Let's do this. This is a better idea. So now we have, now we say this is the column and this is the row. It's good to have descriptive variable names rather than A, B, C, D, etc. Because then you have no idea what's going on. I mean, you might not anyway. That's what I do. But it's better. It'll leave you with a better chance of having some idea of what you're doing, which is always good. So there's the buttons with no command yet. Let's see. I'm going to grid them for row in range 4, for column in range 4, self dot buttons row column dot grid row equals row and column equals column. Great. That works just fine. So with this I create a bunch of buttons, and with this I will put them on the put them in the window with the grid geometry manager. So this is how I'm gonna access each button. I'm going to say the one in this row and column, then I'm going to say grid, and which row of the grid. It's the row that's going to be over here. Same for the column. That should be good. Now I have a bunch of buttons. How about behavior? How about that? How about, so I'm going to have the first tile is going to be something I'm going to be comparing other tiles to. Self dot first, I guess, equals I'm gonna need random, definitely, because how else will I get random results? First is gonna start with this, sure, and then what should we call this? Choose a tile, something. Choose tile with self and row and column. Great. So this will have to be Lambda. That's the dance of anonymous functions. It's my favorite typo that I did intentionally this time because it's very entertaining. Anyway, lambda self dot choose tile with row and column. And now I will be doing this. There. Very good. Not very tidy. I guess I could do this to some degree. And it's this. Great, fine. So the command will be this is just an inline function, remember, with no name. If we wanted, we could define a separate wrapper function for each of these in a an explicit loop, but there's no need. And the reason we need one instead of deleting this and saying command equals self.choose_tile is because this will say when we're constructing the button and saying what's the command, it will run self.choose_tile with row and column, and whatever that function returns will be the command. We do not want that. And one other thing, if we left it like this, then they would all point to 3, 3. Because the row and column values would be bound at runtime. Afterward. Sorry, bound when called. And the latest value for those is 3 and 3. And we don't want that, so here's what we're going to do. Row equals row, column equals column. And there we have, now this says that it will use default arguments to bind the row and column to their current values, whatever they are at the time that this is executed, that this happens, when the button is created. So, choose tile. I need the answer key. That's important. Answer equals less, whatever, great. So we need the answer, but not the board. So that's fine. Okay. Self. And self. And self. I don't want them to be a class attribute. Just keeping everything tied to this instance. Okay. So now we have, we've got a, what do we have by this point when we start the application? We have an answer key, and that's fine. I don't know if we probably will want to refer to that for timing stuff. And we have a bunch of buttons with kind of large command, but that's okay. I don't care. And we've gridded all the buttons, and we've got an initial value for self.first. So now when we click something, let's do, it has to check whether there is something to compare to. If not, self.first. So if this is if there's no first tile to compare this to, meaning this one is the first, self.first equals self.answer row column. Okay, so that sets it, and that's it. Very good. Oh, it also has to show us what it is. This is something that might be yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it now. Actually, I think we can do it at the start. So we will show the content of this tile. Self.buttons row column. That's actually this. So this is a button.config. So this lets us configure a button. One thing we could do that would be very, very bad is to draw a new button with a new value. You do not want to do that. It's very bad, because then you end up with 80 billion buttons, and your program is very slow, and you can't figure out why. And then you ask someone what's going on here, and they say you have too many buttons. You say, but I wanted to change them, and that means, you know, throwing one out, or, you know, keeping it there and just putting a new button on top of it. No, if you want to change it, you just change it. So the game Star Trek Online has had issues with that lately. There was a little mini game added where you scan for, an artifact, and then it shows you, it paints 2 red lines on the ground, and let's say you're looking at it from overhead, and here's the floor. Puts 2 little red lines on the ground with like an arc, right? And it says the artifact is somewhere in this arc. Cool. And then then it fades after a couple seconds, and you go somewhere in, this direction, and then you scan again. Maybe it'll do this, and then you can narrow it down. These red lines were being shoved under the floor, under the ground. They were still there, still being drawn, saved. And you could see anyone's. So every time anyone used this scan to make the little red lines show up, they would draw the red lines, then the red lines would go down a layer. And they would stay there forever. Not forever. They've done something to fix it, I think. But when you draw temporary things and they're not actually temporary and they stay there, and then you have people doing that all day, every day for like a week, it was taking a long time to load this map where this happened. And occasionally, when things were still, when you could see the map, the load screen was gone already, but it still hadn't quite built everything. You could see the red lines. And in some areas, in some instances, it was so thick that it was like the ground was covered in blood. The blood of awful programming skill. Someone coded this, and they are employed somehow. They're probably still employed somehow. I wonder what their hiring process is, because I'm pretty sure it doesn't involve, can you program in a way that doesn't make things explode? Load times were going from like 5 or 10 seconds to, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. Some people were having load times of upwards of 8 minutes. Can you imagine that? You go into your game and you hit load, and instead of being there 5-10 seconds later, you can go and have a cup of coffee, because it takes 8 minutes to load. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? It was awful. Then they said, okay, we fixed it. People are still seeing red lines when they load. And now when you actually try to do this scan for the artifact, the red lines show up for like half a second. They just kind of blink. I don't know why they had to change that. And I don't know why there are still some red lines. But the load times are better. And I'm limiting my time in that area as much as I can. So whatever. Anyway, config is what you want to do. I don't remember what I was doing. I need to configure this to have a text of self.answer row column. Okay, very good. So now we can see what the letter is in that tile. And if it's not the first one, we will say I should probably save this. I'll just call it none for now. And this is going to be, you know what? I'll just save it. Row and column, because I'm not going to just want the letter. I'm going to want the coordinates of it, so I can change that one back. I'm going to need that with this row and column. And that's it, right? Yeah. It's going to change that. So it's going to say reveal, whatever this is. And then if there's no first one already, then do this. Otherwise, it's going to be something and then self.first equals none eventually. So we want to say, so we revealed that if self.answer row column, I'm going to need this, that little square bracket is important, is the same as self.answer self.first 0 and yes, this, and then self.first 1. Okay. If we have that, let's do this actually. AB equals self.first. That's better. A and B. Great. So if the entry in the answer with that row and column matches what's in the answer for the first tiles, row and column, then leave them there, I guess. Here's what I'll do. I'll disable them. Self buttons row column dot config state equals tk dot disabled. Same for the other one. Cool. If they do match, we're going to disable both of those buttons, and that's great. But if they do not match, then a few seconds later I want to reset them back. Yeah. Actually, I will here's what I'll do. If it's not the first one, then we're going to do this and disable it. So if there's no first one yet, then we say this is the first one, and we're going to disable this button so you can't click it again. Because if you could click it again, then it would say, for example, is the button in row 0, column 1 the same as the button in row 0, column 1? And it is, so it's visible. And you could just double click on everything. That wouldn't be good. So if we need a first one, we will save these coordinates and disable this button. If it's not the first one, we're going to unpack these coordinates and say if the one we have now, the second one, matches what's in the first one, then we're also going to disable this one. Otherwise, we're going to wait a couple seconds and then hide the answer for both of these tiles and reset the state to normal for the first one. Let's see. I'm thinking if I should define a full function or just use a lambda. Yeah, full function, I think. Def reset. Hide tiles. hide tiles. Self, and we're going to have x1, y1, x2, y2. And self.parent.after, and the after method places a call in the scheduler and says after this much time run this function. You can actually have a function def my function, and then within there you can have self.parent.after some time run my function. And it is not recursive because each call is separate and is not just piling up on the stack. So you can have animation pretty much with what looks like recursion with after, but it isn't. It'll just go through and schedule a call, and then that, you have the initial call of a function, and so it goes through that and gets to the end and says, okay, after I'm going to put that call to this function in the scheduler. Okay, this function is done. Close that, chapter. And then once the scheduler hits the specified time, it will call that function. And then go through it again and get to the after call and schedule that and finish this function, instead of go through here and then go through here and go through here, and it's got like just this growing tail. That's the maximum recursion limit, or maximum recursion depth exceeded is the error you get if you do that infinitely with actual recursion. But this is not actual recursion. Just keep scheduling a new call. About 3000. Self.hide tiles, and I think I'm gonna need, actually what you can do here is, since they the designers of tk-enter expected that you would have parameters for a function, I think what you can actually do is this row column a b. You can just add those as other arguments instead of having to do lambda this and then with the what's it. I could do that. But I will try this. I don't think I've ever actually used that before, but Lambda Everywhere. Lambda Everywhere. You know that? The meme with Woody showing Buzz Lightyear gesturing at something with a smile on his face, and Buzz is like, oh, I don't like the sound of that. And the meme is, something everywhere. And he's showing him all the... Anyway, Lambda Everywhere. After and do this. And what will this function do? This function will move more towards the center of the screen. A little bit. And what will we do? We will have to reset those to the blank thing. Actually, we can just make them blank. Nothing. No text. I don't think I even need that, because not necessary. What we will do is width equals 2. Not sure how that will look exactly. I'm looking for a square appearance, whatever that is. We'll see what that does. But we'll just use the default text, which is nothing, and then we'll reconfigure it to this, etc. We want to re-enable the first one and set them both to hide their contents. So we're going to set the state of something, and we have row and columns. That's the second one, and AB is the one that's still disabled. So we have x2 and y2, and we're we're going to set that to normal. And then we're going to say set the text of both of those to nothing. That shouldn't be too difficult. This will be 1 and 1, 2 and 2. And this is going to be text equals nothing. And so after that point, how about if all of them have been matched, maybe some thing to say you won? I don't know. Do we want that? Does anyone care? Oh, we have someone in chat. Hi Zephi-chan, who has been here before. I'm noticing this after only 12 minutes. After 12 minutes of focusing on things. Programmer Blood, talking about the red lines. Yeah. One gets the impression that there wasn't much sweat and blood involved in the creation of that little algorithm. They just threw it together and said, well, we can just shove it under the ground layer. I really don't care. It's Friday. And that was that. Let's see. Do we want some kind of announcement of things are happening? If it's a match, disable this one too. If how do we check whether there is a win? We can remove them from, we can null them basically. I'm going to set them to an empty string. So if it is a match, we're going to say disable that one too. And then we're going to say self.answer row column equals nothing. And same for the other tile. And this will help us detect when the game is over. If any row nothing dot join row for row in self dot answer. So we're going to go through each row in the answer and join that on the empty string. And if we have a row that's like A, B, F, G, then as a list, then this would join that list and give us a string of A, B, F, G. And if there's nothing in there, it will be empty. Let's say if not any. So if any of these rows have something in them, then this block will not execute. If there's not anything left in the answer, basically, then we finished, and we should say something. Win equals, should we make a, we could make a top level window and populate it with stuff, We could just have a message box. Let's just import message box. tk enter import message box. I think it's that. Message box dot show info title success and message equals you win, congratulations. Cool. And then how about automatically do it again? Maybe this stuff should be in drawboard. Do we want to provide a facility for resetting? I don't know if we do, because that'd be annoying. These need to go over here, by the way. What we would have to do is create a new answer and reset the state of all the buttons. We could do that, actually. We just reset the state of all the buttons. And make a new, what's it? Okay. Let's do the following. Def generate board. And we move this in here. Great. Self.generate board. Good. Let's move that below self.parent equals parent. I want that to be the first thing. Because let's put some spacing over there. That's good. Let's see. Okay, so if we win, we can generate the board and re-enable all the buttons and reset them to a blank label. Congratulations. And how about we'll call this reset, and that'll set more things. How about just drawboard, because that's what it does. Drawboard. Okay. And what will that do? That will set also all the buttons. I'll go to here. Thank you. Set all the buttons back to their initial state. For row in self.buttons, for button in row, button dot, and we're reconfiguring each button to be empty. So that means the text and state. State equals tk dot normal. Okay. Very good. Where are we configuring stuff? That's good. That's good. We can actually move this into here. Text equals nothing. And let's move the one before the two. That's good. X2, Y2, yeah, this is the first. And first is number 2. I don't care. Self.parent.after. How about 5 seconds? The first argument is a duration in milliseconds, and it can only have a floating point. Sorry, only can have integers for that. If you're wanting to do anything more precise than an integer value of milliseconds, tkinter with Python probably isn't the platform you should be using in the first place. Drawboard. Okay. Looks good, looks good. It is, disable that. Alright, etc. Okay. Let's look through it, and then we will run it. We have tkinter, random, and the message box. This is necessary even though we already imported tkinter, because not everything is automatically imported. Some things need to be imported specifically. So we do that here. Import message box. Alright, we have, we're going to start here. That's fine, that's good. Save the parent. We have our buttons, which is going to be a 2D list. And each button will be in the root window with a width and height of 2. I don't know how that'll turn out exactly. The command is going to be with these variables bound on definition rather than when it's called, and that will let the row and column be actually correct instead of just being the last value. And that's going to choose a tile with that row and column for column range 4, row and range 4, and then we're going to grid everything, initialize the first, and then draw the board, which means create an answer key. And then for each button, we're going to make sure their text is empty and their state is normal. Then we will, what do we got? Choose tile. So when someone clicks, we're going to choose the tile, and then we're going to say whatever they clicked on is going to be revealed, and if there's no first tile existing, we're going to say it's this one in that case, and we're going to disable this button, and that's it. So the next time they click, there will be a first, and so we're going to say okay, so we've revealed this one, whatever it is, and we're going to look at the first tile, and if that answer key is the same as this one, then we're going to disable this second tile as well, and remove it from the answer key, both the first and second. So these tiles are both disabled, and their answer key is blank in that spot. And if we go through each row and none of them have a truthy value when joined into a string, meaning it's all empty, we're going to say success, you win, congratulations. And how about time? Import time. Drawboard is going to say self dot start time equals time dot monotonic, because if we do this, congratulations. How about just time equals something dot format duration equals time dot monotonic minus self dot start time. So that's how long it was. That's going to be the duration. And then we will reset the start time. Self dot start time equals time dot monotonic. So if we've won, we say, let's get the duration, and then say you win in this amount of time. 0.2, I think. Do I need the F there? No, I don't. I'm not sure if I do. I want number of seconds. There we go. F. Yeah, I do want that. Without the F, you get scientific notation, and with the F, you just get what you want, which is the number of seconds with 2 decimal places. Let's actually make that 0.1, because it doesn't matter. Duration, and then we're going to say the start time resets. Actually, no, that already resets over here. We don't need to do that. And then after 5 seconds, we will draw the board and get a new start time. How about moving this out there as well? Right here. Very good. Reset the first tile to none. That's important. Also, no, this is already set to none. We'll do this, and after that, and we won't do this, and we'll set the first to none. This is actually not even necessary. Yes, it is somewhere. The first time. So the first time, but when we draw the board, we will already have set this to none. So that's good. And if it's not a match, then it doesn't disable this one. It just actually, we probably should. Let's disable both of them. No, hang on. First one is already disabled, isn't it? If there's no first one ready, then disable this. If it is a match, we don't want this one. We want the one that we just picked to be disabled. And it already is. Why do we even need that? It already was. This is totally not needed. If they're the same, then we set the answer key to blank. If we win, then get the duration and save it, put the message there, and after 5 seconds redraw the board, and regardless set first to none. If this is the second one, then we need to reset the first value. Hide tiles. This is going to have to be reset as well. Normal. Okay. Very good. I could do a loop for this, but there are only 2 values. Only 2 things we're doing. So it doesn't really help. Just makes it more nested. Drop the board after that. So if it's not a match, then after 3 seconds do the hide tiles. That sets both of those to normal. Okay, let's save this and try it out. GUI. So I'm currently waiting. There we go. Was waiting for the for hard drive access. Okay, and let's see what happens. Memory tile GUI.py. Okay. Syntax error? No. Answer, because that has to be self.answer. Oh, because yeah. Oops. Forgot to change that when I copy pasted it. That would help. Let's try that again. Ooh, fascinating. Here's what I've got. So I want them to be a little wider than this. Width 2, 4? Width 4. Okay. Run that again. I said run it. Thank you. And now we have this. Much better. Okay. Let's see what happens. A. Cool. That's a little grayish. Oh, it's disabled. That's fine. And B. And there we go. I want it to disable this immediately. If not, oh, it's only if it's not self.first. Oh, make this unconditional. Say this is our reveal the text and disable it. If it's not the first one, save it as the first one. If it is, blah blah blah. Let's close that again. Let's actually save this so it does what we want. Okay, B and A. It's gonna disappear. E, and wait a few seconds. Shouldn't disappear. And H. B A H E. There's H and H. Hooray! Fantastic. D. What's here? G. Wasn't there a G somewhere? B and D. One of these was D, I think. Yeah. F and F. Cool. C and A. A and A. G and G. C and E, no. C and C. B and E, nope. So we're almost done. Just check that we can't click on these. Can't click on that, good. And you win times 77.4 is what it says. And I click OK, and it reset. And that is a different character. So this HEDACF FF D B is somewhere else, huh? E and G C and H. Memory game indeed. E and C, B and G, C and C, very good. A and G, wasn't that somewhere over here? G and G, B and E. There we go, and I can click on that. E, and that. You win, time 55.8. Let's see if it resets while this is up. I think it will. Nope, maybe not. It's not resetting while I'm doing this. So, okay. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so it only, I guess the message box is blocking. That's fine. I don't care. That's it, I believe. What changes did I make after the first run? I had to change, I had to add self to these. Whoops. And I wanted the button disabled regardless of whether it was the first or the second. I didn't want people to be able to click one and that's disabled, and then click another and then click it again a bunch of times. Don't want that. And the width had to be 4 instead of 2. That was pretty good. Just blasted through and go to all that. That's cool. One copy paste mistake. One I want to put this over here, and a design thing. That's all. That's easy. And that took less than an hour. So that's a memory tile game. I hope you enjoyed and learned some stuff, and leave comments with suggestions of what I should do next, because I really don't know. Little board games and stuff that can be done in the console or Decanter are perfectly fine. I can totally do those. Other things, maybe not. But this went pretty well. It was pretty good. I could add a title to the what's it called? The window having a title is called, I don't remember what that's called. You wouldn't be able to see it in the stream anyway, unless I messed with the video settings. Title bar. The title bar. I could put a different title in the title bar. Whatever. And that is how you make a memory tile game in Decanter. 56 lines, and the console version was 40. So with another 16 lines, we can do something with graphical interface. That's cool, right? Granted, it's 16 out of 40, which is 40% more code. But really not bad. Not bad at all. So less than 2 screens. Neat. I'm happy with that. That's the stream. That's the program. It was not difficult, I think. Only changed a couple things afterward. And don't do that in your own stuff, by the way. Run your code frequently instead of write for an hour, and then run and see what errors you made. Because sometimes the errors build on themselves, and it's very bad. But this time it turned out fine, because it's a very simple program. 56 lines, tiny. And it turned out fine. No horrifying algorithmic what's-its with no big problems. Just a name error and a little design tweak, and this could have caused problems, to be honest, if we hadn't disabled the second tile. Like, just disable it, whether it's the first or second, kind of important. And that is it. So thanks for joining me. Tomorrow, game of some kind. I've been recommended to play a game called Shantae, I think. Risky's Revenge, something. It's apparently a Mega Man spiritual successor, something. I don't know. I never played the Mega Man games, actually. Any of them, for even a moment. I've never tried them. But people say this one's good, so maybe I'll do that. I don't know. Anyway, thanks again. Leave a comment with a suggestion of what I should do for more coding streams. Doesn't have to be Python necessarily, but that's what I'm most familiar with. If you suggest I do something in F#, it will have to be something very simple, because I don't really know how to do F# yet. Yeah. Thanks again. Like, comment, subscribe. And I will see you next time. Have a good one.